Update. I don't want my sister-in-law to come to our vacation, and now she claims I shamed her. I don't think you can shame someone who is incapable of being ashamed of her actions, even after people pointed them out to her. Original post. A couple of years ago, my brother met his now wife Susan, 33 female, and started bringing her to our events. Our family has a cabin that we use every year for a 1-week family vacation. Normally, it used to be our parents, my husband and me and my brother, but for the last 2 years Susan has also joined us. This year, I refuse to go if Susan is present, and my parents want me there, so Susan is no longer invited. On to why I don't want Susan to come with us? The short answer is that she is disgusting. She doesn't have any kind of hygiene, and every vacation with her was a nightmare because she can't act like a normal human being. Some examples of what has happened so far. She stinks, plain and simple. How my brother can tolerate her smelling the way she does is beyond my understanding, but the rest of us have a hard time being around her. The reason she stinks is that she is against deodorant. She uses items that don't belong to her without asking and without informing anyone afterward. Last year, I left my and my husband's towels to dry in the sun after our morning showers. Around noon, I went to take the towels back to our room and noticed they were soaking wet, which couldn't be possible since they had literally stayed in the sun all morning. When I asked if anyone knew what happened, Susan said she had taken a shower and used them. It's a miracle she showered, but I don't share towels with anyone except my husband, so the towel went straight to the bin. She acted offended that I threw it out and said there was no need to act like she had a plague. I told her there's also no need to use things that don't belong to her. I don't care what she does or doesn't have. It's not okay to use other people's things without permission. She doesn't clean the toilet after using it. So we've all found period blood and poop left in the bowl when we needed to use the bathroom. She also doesn't wrap her tampons before throwing them in the bin. Her reason every time is, I forgot. I've seen her multiple times drinking juice or milk straight from the bottle. She forgets that we don't want to share saliva with her, and that this habit is disgusting. She uses her hands to mix ingredients without washing them first. She once made a salad and mixed everything together in the bowl with her dirty hands. When we talked to my brother about all of this, he always made excuses for her. His main justifications are that she has autism and that she grew up poor, so we need to be understanding of her. I am not. Poverty is not an excuse to stink and be dirty. Poverty and autism are not excuses for not cleaning the toilet after you use it, especially when there's a brush right there for that exact purpose. I guess my brother told her why she's not invited, and she confronted me, crying that I am shaming her. So I told her that if, by this age, she is incapable of feeling ashamed by her own behavior, then there's a very slim chance I, or anyone else, can ever shame her in any way. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your brother is, for blaming autism for her behavior. One thing I've found autistic people are normally very good at is understanding direct instructions. Like, please wash your hands before touching food, and please don't use my things without asking. And, you have to make the toilet look clean before you leave the room. I can understand that deodorant might be difficult from a sensory perspective, although I've found the cream ones suit me. However, if you don't use it, you need to clean yourself more often so you don't have body odor. As someone on the spectrum, how much it would have helped to have those instructions directly. Everyone sucks here. I understand it is not nice that sister-in-law is smelly, but I also think you were unnecessarily harsh. You didn't have to throw the towel away, like it was permanently contaminated. You could have said, I don't share towels, so I'm going to put this in the wash. Please don't use my stuff again without asking. I understand sister-in-law's hygiene habits are not acceptable, and you shouldn't have to put up with dirty toilets or badly prepared food, etc. However, I feel there could have been more effort to kindly educate her and see if it made any improvement before outright rejecting her. You don't know what struggle she has had, or whether she has had enough support growing up with a neurodiverse disadvantage. I suspect you didn't like the change dynamic of a new person in the mix on your family vacay and were quick to find fault and go overboard on the criticisms. This is someone your brother cares about and who might be a long-term part of your family. and you've already hurt and embarrassed her. Not ideal. Why do I have to educate her on very basic things, like don't use my freaking towel to dry your butt? Don't drink directly from the bottle when multiple people are using that product? Should I also explain to her she is not to use my underwear? I am sorry, but she is an adult. I don't have to educate an adult how to behave in society. Now for the update. Thank you all for your feedback on my last post. After yesterday, I was left with mixed feelings. On one hand, I'm happy to see that there are still normal people around who value cleanliness and hygiene. On the other hand, I was sad to see how many nasty people we have around us. Someone put it very well. Shame should become a thing again, because maybe by feeling ashamed, some people will start acting normally and stop expecting the rest of society to put up with disgusting habits. To go on the internet as an adult and claim that a 33-year-old woman must be shown and taught basic things, like cleaning a toilet seat after getting it dirty, is unreal. Just a personal thought, but I'll share it here. Not everyone learns everything at home or is taught all the social standards, but each and every one of us is responsible for educating ourselves if that education didn't happen in our early years. Meaning, your parents may not have explained why hygiene is important, but as an adult, you have all the means to learn on your own. Those who say, "My parents didn't teach me this, so I don't know," are just lazy and ignorant. If you have a phone and internet access to waste time writing nonsense on Reddit, you can clearly use those tools to Google or watch tutorials on how to manage your period, handle sanitary products, or clean up after yourself. That being said, my family and I are leaving tomorrow to go to the cabin. My brother will join us, but Susan will not. He'll probably give us more details in the coming days, but I guess he's also tired of his wife and her inability to act like a normal human being. It's sad, and he's also to blame for how things turned out, for not putting a stop to her habits sooner. But for the first time in 2 years, we'll enjoy our family vacation, and my parents will have both their kids present without stress, disgust, or constantly cleaning up after an adult woman. For those who seemed unable to understand why my husband is still invited and my brother's wife is not, the answer is because my husband is not a pig, and because my husband did not leave period blood on the toilet seat, forcing my father to storm out and pee in the yard because he was too disgusted to use his own bathroom in his own cabin. I hope this clears up that absurd question, but if you need more graphic descriptions, I can provide them. And to those who are crying in a corner about how unfair it is that Susan is excluded, tough luck. Life is hard. Society will exclude you if you can't follow basic decent cues, because people don't owe you anything. And no, this doesn't come from a place of hate, as immature people would claim. It comes from a place of valuing boundaries and comfort. One last thing, I promise I'm not throwing any towels away this trip, since that seemed to be such a triggering topic for many of you. Keep calm. The towels are safe with me, I swear. People underestimate how exhausting it is to clean up after someone who refuses to act like an adult. You're not being harsh. You're being real about what you can and can't tolerate. I know people act like it is our job to act like her maids or clean after her, which is insane. And I really wonder, where is this all coming from? Maybe these people are just like her and expect others to clean after them. Who knows? If you're old enough to debate on Reddit, you're old enough to Google how to clean up after yourself. It's wild that this even needs to be said, but here we are. Yeah, exactly my point. But it's easier to expect others to do the job for you instead of taking ownership of your own life. It also begs the question, what is she teaching her children in terms of personal hygiene? She may not have been taught, but she has a responsibility to ensure she doesn't pass her own failings onto her children. Praise the Lord they don't have any kids. It would be horrible if they did. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that I'm not going to give her son a gift just because it's his turn? My sister-in-law, my partner's brother's wife, has a 10-year-old son, and lately, she has started a habit of telling the whole family that it's her turn to get a gift every time someone else has a birthday or something special. Last week was my daughter's birthday, and we bought her a toy she had wanted for months. When my sister-in-law came to the house with her son, the boy asked, "And what do I get?" And his mom very calmly said, yes, you should give him something too, so he doesn't feel left out. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. But no, she was serious. She told me that it's only fair, that if a child sees another child get something, he should get a small gift too. I told her that I disagreed and that I'm not going to raise my daughter thinking that the world owes her something every time someone else celebrates something. She got really upset and told me I was being cruel to a child. But honestly, I think that just reinforces a selfish attitude. My partner is supportive, but her brother is now upset too and says we could have at least given him something symbolic, like candy. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to give gifts to my sister-in-law's son every time someone else celebrates something? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Is the boy named Dudley Dursley by any chance? Only 37 presents. That's less than last year. Not the a-hole. They're raising an entitled spoiled brat who is going to go through life thinking that he is owed something every time anyone else has something good happen to them. Every wedding, every birthday, every holiday is going to be all about him. And if it's not, he's going to throw a tantrum because mommy told him he's super special and everyone else has to worship the ground he walks on. No, we're not going to give him something symbolic or anything else. If you want to teach your son that the world revolves around him and make him an entitled spoiled brat who thinks he's owed something and tries to make every event about himself, that's your problem. But we're not going to play into it or encourage it, and it's certainly not going to be happening in our house. You're delusional if you think that he deserves something every time anyone else gets anything. Are you going to give every other kid a gift at his birthday parties and make him share the spotlight, or is it only him who's owed the special treatment in your mind? Either way, not happening. Perfectly said. Why are people so entitled? Because of parents like this. Ridiculous. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not making amends with my mother after she called Child Protective Services on my wife? My entire life I have had a rough relationship with my mom. She was very hot and cold, either loved me or didn't speak to me. She cheated on my dad with the pastor of our church right before I went to college. I was devastated and temporarily cut her off, then moved 16 hours away to go to school. She divorced my dad and married my former pastor, and neither of us spoke to each other until a couple years later at Christmas. I had to come to her. She's never reached out to me. I stayed at college for another few years after we reconnected, but she still wouldn't come out to see me, even though my dad took the time to drive out several times, making sure each of my 5 younger siblings got to see me. My mom said she couldn't come to my college graduation even after I offered to pay for her flight. In the meantime, I had started dating a girl in college who I really liked. After I graduated, I took a job back in my home state, and she came with me, leaving her family 16 hours behind. We got married a year later and things seemed okay with my mom. My wife liked her, and they did things together, went shopping, went out to eat. I felt like even though my parents were divorced, things were finally calmer. Fast forward a few years later and my first child was born. My wife suffered from postpartum depression, and I honestly wasn't the most supportive husband. I complained about her to my family, giving up private details of her mental health that I should have never shared. She recovered around 6 months later, and a year after that, we decided to have a second child. My wife warned me she was at risk of PPD again, and we made a plan with her doctor to start medication as soon as our second baby was born. Again, I shared this information with my family, which I know now isn't okay, but my mom started giving me a lot of grief. She said my wife shouldn't be on medication. It was bad for her, bad for the baby. My wife was going to nurse. My mom was a nurse, so I assumed she knew what she was talking about, and this caused drama between me and my wife. The last couple of months of her pregnancy were rough because I was adamant, based on the information I got, that she shouldn't take medication. My wife didn't listen and took it anyway. This time she was fine, no PPD, but had a rough physical recovery. We ended up moving to a home we purchased that was an hour away from my family. I resented my wife for thinking she wasn't doing the safest thing for my kid, and my mom started to resent my wife because of the medication and the fact my wife didn't want to drive an hour each way to visit my mom with both the kids. My wife said my mom could come see her if she wanted, but it was a lot for her to take both kids during the week to see my mom. She said they would nap in the car and then wouldn't sleep at night, which would mess up their schedules. We went to see my mom a couple of times with the kids on the weekends, but she was adamant that my wife bring them to her during the week. This caused more stress and drama and made me mad at my wife for seemingly not caring that she was ruining the relationship that I worked so hard to rebuild with my mom. This went on for about a year when my wife got a call from CPS. They said they needed to conduct an investigation based on allegations that were made. My siblings confirmed that my mom made the report and was also starting a smear campaign against my wife. When we met with a CPS worker, the allegations were outrageous. Some of them were based on my wife's PPD, which she only had with my first child, but others were flat-out lies. She said we were isolating our kids because we wouldn't come see her and locking our kids up in gates like cages. We literally had a playpen for our barely walking baby to keep him safe while my wife did chores. Anyway, she took anything true and exaggerated it into something awful. We had to go through the whole investigation process, which was traumatic for us, but in the end were cleared of wrongdoing, and they labeled the report as a false allegation. Unfortunately, in that state there weren't any repercussions for false reports, but our attorney advised us to cut contact to avoid future retaliation. This whole ordeal really opened my eyes to the sad truth that my mom is a full-blown narcissist. I kind of knew it before, but was in denial and really wanted things to work. We ended up cutting off my mom completely and moving to another state. Right before we left, I confronted my mom and told her if she wants to be in our lives, she needs to own up to her lies and apologize to my wife. She doubled down, saying she was concerned, and said my wife had problems and she would never apologize. It's now been 7 years, and my mom hasn't said a word. She sent her husband after me at a family wedding, telling me it's breaking her heart that I won't contact her. I told him she hasn't apologized to my wife, and his response is, "Oh, we don't care about that thing anymore." But my wife and I do. They have to be insane to think that we want people in our lives who could have had our children taken away. My siblings have been ganging up on me for years, saying that I need to be the bigger person and apologize. I, on the other hand, can't trust my mom and feel like she's too unhinged to welcome back into our lives, especially since she can't take any responsibility for lying. Am I the a-hole? You were a terrible husband and are lucky your wife stayed with you. You provided your mother with all the ammunition she needed to go after the person you should have been protecting. I am glad you are finally putting your wife first and protecting her peace. Continue with that. And do not let your mother anywhere near her or your children. If you let her back in, expect your wife to leave and take your children with her. This should be higher up. OP absolutely sucked as a husband, partner, and dad. Failed her all the way. And he still agreed to let his mom back into his family's life if the mom apologizes? Dude needs to grow a spine. You're the a-hole for how you treated your wife. You're lucky she's obviously forgiven you. I would have packed up my kids and myself and left your unsupportive butt so fast, and I would have gone straight to a divorce lawyer. OP clearly needs therapy to address his mommy issues. He was willingly hurting his wife to mend a bond with his mom, who basically abandoned him. That needs to be addressed. He's beyond lucky that woman is even still talking to him, kids or not. I didn't realize how much my family's toxic behavior had rubbed off on me. The reason I'm questioning everything now is I just recently lost my grandmother. It's making me feel like time will run out before I make amends with my mom, and my siblings are pushing me to do it as well. No matter how messed up the things my mom did are, she's still my mom and I love her. It's just a very painful situation. Am I the a-hole for not having my little sister at my wedding because she accused my little brother of touching her inappropriately to her therapist just to get attention? I, 23 female, have a 16-year-old little sister who was adopted at an older age and came with a lot of trauma. Despite having been in therapy her whole life, it does not seem to be helping. She recently accused my 19-year-old biological little brother of touching her inappropriately, and she even told her therapist, so it became a bigger issue. She has a history of making up stories about every single person in the family to men online. She craves attention, good or bad. This is not the first incident where she accused someone in the family of abusing her and it was all a lie. Since the therapist got her to admit she was lying about my brother, nothing legally happened to him, but he is very traumatized by the situation. I felt awful for my whole family who lives with her and what they all went through. My parents were so sad about it, and my whole family cried together when they told me. I do not think my sister is sorry for what she did, since she has said nothing about it to anyone, and she has not apologized directly to my brother either, and my wedding is only weeks away now. I do not feel comfortable having her there. I just want the wedding to be a happy day, where everyone there is comfortable, loves and wants the best for the groom and me, and that no one will maliciously do something to destroy it. I feel she needs to rebuild trust with me, and it will take time. Am I the a-hole for not trusting her? Now for the top comments. My younger sister once accused me of being drunk and aggressive to her. She was about 13. I was not drunk nor aggressive, yet social services had to get involved and investigate. I haven't been alone in a room with her since. If it's me and another responsible adult, I'm good. If the other adult leaves the room, so do I. She's 16 now. My job relies on me not having a criminal record, and I can't trust her not to lie. So I refuse to put myself in that situation. She never apologized, never admitted she lied. It was only the testimony of other siblings that said I was sober and didn't touch a hair on her head or even raise my voice. Not the a-hole. You can love someone and not like them very much. You can love them and not trust them. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I completely agree with you. You can love someone but not trust them, or not like them because of their lies. Not the a-hole. Honestly, you're going to have a conversation at some point on if you can even trust your little sister moving forward. I would personally not invite her to the wedding where there will be drinking, and giving her perfect opportunities to make up stories about some random guest touching her inappropriately and such. Yep. OP has an obligation to protect her wedding guests from the attention-seeking lies of this child. Simple as that. It isn't safe for her guests to have her at the wedding. Additionally, OP should avoid bringing her husband to family events where the girl will be. Maybe just agree to spend time with her in the company of their mom, like a lunch date once a month or something. She may well have been traumatized before she came to the family. It's good that she's in therapy. One of the things therapy should focus on is consequences for actions. Not going to this wedding and her whole family not trusting her are consequences of her current choices. Poor girl. I hope she gets the help she needs. Not the a-hole. But OP cannot ever let your husband to be anywhere near your sister. She might accuse him for revenge. If anyone gives you grief about that, just remind them what happened to your brother and how he is still traumatized and now scarred for life by her actions. You never want that to happen to your spouse, who you love. I wish more people understood this. I was falsely accused, and it's terrifying, because for so many people, it's an automatic guilty verdict. I luckily have a lot of good friends who knew it was bull, but it completely ripped my life apart. The girl was a BPD nut job, trying to alienate a good friend I had known for over a decade. It worked. But surprise, surprise, turns out she was a manipulative, abusive POS. She had false claims on 3 other people from where she lived before. She got him to go to all my family and friends spreading these lies that I assaulted her. And it's frankly disgusting how many didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. My mate deteriorated mentally from the abuse into an alcoholic mess who regularly drinks enough to be crying in public bathrooms. And it's just extremely sad. Then when it was all over and the truth came out, all the friends trickled back into my inbox like nothing happened. Nah, how can I trust you after this? Like I said, it completely ripped my life apart. Nowadays, I never let myself be alone with any woman I don't completely trust. It's just not worth it. Of course, despite 4 false claims I know of, there's 0 accountability for her and she will probably do it again. Because why wouldn't she? I've talked with a lot of other guys with similar stories. And it's mentally traumatizing, especially for those who don't have the truth come out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister to leave because she brought people into my house? I, 26 male, live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I work remotely and I prefer to keep to myself. My younger sister, 22 female, graduated college a few months ago and moved in with me temporarily while she applies for jobs and gets on her feet. Since our parents moved south when we both left the house, we've always gotten along pretty well. The only thing I made clear when she moved in was that I'm not okay with people coming over. I don't host, ever. I don't care if it makes me weird, I just don't feel safe around unfamiliar people in my space. I told her that early on, and she said she understood. This weekend, I got back from a walk and there were 3 people I didn't know sitting on the couch. One of them was drinking from my mug. They were laughing, watching a show, super casual like this was their place. My sister just waved like it was no big deal and said, "Hope you don't mind." I didn't say anything. I turned around and left. I was outside for like 2 hours just walking. When I got back, they were gone. I told her I can't do this. I said I'm sorry, but I need her to start looking for another place to stay. She got really upset and said she didn't think it would be that big of a deal, that they were only there for an hour and they weren't loud or messy. I told her it's not about that. It's about how it made me feel in my own home. I don't think I should have to feel like a guest in my own space. Now she's staying with a friend for a few days, and my parents are mad. They say I'm being extreme and ungrateful, and that I should support her while she's trying to get her life started. They said my sister called me embarrassing, but I honestly don't know what else I could have done. It's not about punishing her, I just don't feel safe when stuff like this happens. So yeah, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You set a clear boundary and she straight up ignored it. Just this. It's not about being a bad host, it's about respect. She treated a clear boundary like a casual suggestion. If she can't respect a very simple and reasonable boundary, she can't expect to stay rent-free. OP didn't blow up. He handled it with grace. She's lucky he didn't throw everyone out on the spot. How are your parents trying to say you're being extremely ungrateful, as if you're not the one providing for and supporting her? It's the gaslighting for me. Who are they expecting you to be grateful toward? They're gone. You pay your own way. Unlike her, that doesn't even make sense. Not the a-hole. You aren't obligated to house her. You chose to be kind. She took advantage of the one rule you gave her. Her "hope you don't mind" comment implies that she hadn't forgotten that rule and was aware you'd likely be upset, and then also doubled down and called you embarrassing. Not the a-hole. Your house, your rules. You were clear about those rules. Whether she thinks it's weird or not, doesn't matter. I seriously don't understand how people cannot grasp this concept. I once helped out a friend of over a decade who needed emergency housing for him and his kid. Spoiler, it wasn't an emergency. We later found out that he just ignored his parents when they told their almost 40-year-old son to find his own place because they were moving, giving him at least 6 months' notice. Rules were simple: no guests. Clean up after yourself. That was pretty much it. First day he moved in, less than 5 hours in the house, and he has his ex-wife over. His ex, who no one likes and no one wants around due to her behavior. He showed off our home like it was his, and he was giving a guided tour, which also made no damn sense because she had been at our place before. Told him he broke the rules of his lease and it was not okay. He lost his mind. His ex got involved and said it was a stupid rule. I pointed out, stupid rule or not, he agreed to it and signed the contract. She made it known she wouldn't respect the rule of no guests. Guess who had the biggest surprised Pikachu face when served with an eviction notice? Yeah, this guy. He even called the cops and fabricated some BS story to have them harass one of my family members at the house who has severe cognitive issues. He planned the timing for when no one else was home. Absolutely abhorrent. This was how he repaid us for helping him and his kid, who actually had his own bed for the first time in 10 years instead of sleeping with daddy. Used to love my friend. Now I wouldn't waste my piss on him if he was on fire. The entitlement of some people is unreal. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding even though I promised 2 years ago? When I, 32 male, was 23, I came into a bit of money from a tech startup I was part of. I wasn't rich by any means, but it was more than I ever thought I'd see at that age. Around that time, my little sister, now 29 female, was going through a rough patch emotionally and financially, and I told her one day, half joking, half serious, "When you get married, I got you. I'll pay for it." At the time, she teared up and hugged me. She never forgot it. Fast forward to now, she's engaged and planning her wedding. She reminded me of that conversation and said she started booking things, venue, photographer, dress, etc., assuming I'd cover it. Here's the thing, I'm not in the same financial situation anymore. I left tech and now run a small business. Comfortable, but not flush. On top of that, I recently had a kid and bought a home with my partner. Money's tighter. When I told her I couldn't cover the whole wedding, especially not the $30,000 plus she's planning, she flipped. She said I lied and used her emotions back then. I offered $5,000 to help, but she says that's insulting and not what I promised. Now my parents are saying I've embarrassed her because she told everyone her big brother was paying. Some relatives think I should honor my word even if it's hard. My partner thinks it's ridiculous and says it was clearly an emotional promise, not a legal contract. So, am I the a-hole for backing out of something I said I'd do years ago, or should I be held to it no matter what? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Withdraw your offer of $5,000 and tell her to figure it out 100% now. She's a big girl, an adult even, and has to pay for things. The promise was nearly a decade ago. I promised my siblings I'd be famous. And well, I promised my siblings I would be the next Tolkien. They are still waiting for a manuscript, haha. My wife and I got married without a wedding because we didn't want to waste $50K on a bunch of old people we don't care about, lol. We are trying to save to buy a home now. I got married 4 years ago for about $5,000, so OP's offer would have paid for my whole wedding. She's an adult. She should have had an adult conversation with OP before she had ever started planning. She's being an entitled and apparently braggadocious bitch, telling everyone her brother is paying for her $30,000 wedding without so much as a conversation with him is ridiculous. Not the a-hole. People make emotional promises all the time, especially in the context of family and during tender moments. Your life circumstances have changed, and she should have confirmed with you before dropping 5 figures based on a decade-old half-joke. You're offering something, not abandoning her. She's acting entitled, and frankly, it's wild to assume someone owes you a wedding just because they once said something nice during a rough patch. Spending other people's money is so easy. A simple conversation between brother and sister would have avoided this mess. All she had to do was remind him of his promise to help, ask if he's still able to help, and ask how much he's willing to give her. Then, she will plan accordingly. He was 23 when he made that promise. What OP's sister should not have done is start planning an extravagant event at his expense. Now she's embarrassed herself and has to cut back on her spending. But that's the price of entitlement these days. OP's parents can alleviate the sister's humiliation by paying for the wedding themselves. Shaking my head. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter-in-law that I will never be her mother and to leave me alone? This is mostly about my daughter-in-law, Kat. Her mother ran out on her when she was a child, and she went into foster care. According to my son, she's currently seeing a therapist. My issue with Kat is that she has repeatedly stomped on my boundaries. She's a very touchy person, and she refuses to call me by my name and only refers to me as Mom. I correct her every time since I'm not comfortable being called Mom by her, and I want her to use my name. There have been multiple times where she's asked inappropriate questions, mostly about why I'm not close to my own mother. For context, my mother was horrible. Kat keeps pushing for details and insists I should get closer to her because family sticks together. She basically tells me to forgive my mom, and she doesn't understand not being close with one's parents. I've told her to drop the topic multiple times, and she refuses. Because of all this, I'm not a huge fan of hers. I've spoken to my son about it, and he asked me to be patient. I've also talked to Kat multiple times and asked her to respect my boundaries. She always says she will, but then goes right back to ignoring them. This is where I might be the jerk. My daughter Sam, 20, and I are taking a weekend trip. Sam has a medical issue and needs to see a specialist a few states over. She hasn't disclosed the issue to the rest of the family yet. She plans to when she has a firm plan. Somehow, word about the trip got back to Kat, and she called me asking why she wasn't invited. I told her it's an important trip and not a fun one. She accused me of lying, claiming it was a mother-daughter trip that she was excluded from. I told her again this is not a girl's trip. She wouldn't let it go and started demanding that she come, saying that she's my daughter and needs to be there. I said no again. She kept insisting, saying I am her mom and she has to come on this trip since she is my kid. That's when I snapped. I told her I will never be her mother. Just because she married my son does not make me her parent. I told her to leave me the heck alone, and that even if this was a mother-daughter trip, she still wouldn't be invited because she isn't my kid. I then hung up. My son says I need to apologize and invite her, that I am a huge prick to her, that I was way out of line and need to make it up to Kat. The situation has spread to the rest of the family, and everyone seems to have their own opinion. Sam is getting flack too, which isn't helping, especially since she doesn't want to disclose the reason for the trip yet. Am I being an a-hole and need to apologize, even though those are my true feelings on her trying to make me her parent? Not the a-hole. Your daughter-in-law is trying to use you to heal her mother wound, instead of trying to build a relationship with you organically. She sounds insufferable, to be honest. That's 100% what she is doing. She is trying so hard that she is pushing people away from her. No one wants to be around someone who stomps on your boundaries and doesn't show basic respect to you. It isn't rocket science to call someone what they want to be called. Keep your hands to yourself or not bring up sensitive topics. Just reading about this level of boundary stomping was triggering my fight or flight response on a visceral level. I feel awful for Kat and hope she gets help. But OP has been patient much longer than I would have managed and is absolutely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You don't just have a daughter-in-law problem. You also have a son problem. He is clearly enabling whatever Delulu world she lives in. Keep enforcing your boundaries. Am I the a-hole for not saving half-siblings I have no relationship with from foster care? My parents' marriage broke down 11 years ago. I, now 25 male, didn't see my dad once the marriage ended. He reached out a couple of times, but I told him I would never play happy families with him and the woman he cheated with, so he left me alone. There were times members of my extended family encouraged me to change my stance. Some even praised his affair partner and said I'd like her. I actually dropped the rope with many relatives who were pushing for this. There were others who didn't push or backed off when I said no, but they'd bring up dad occasionally. I knew he had other kids, never felt a need to meet them. Last year, my dad and his wife were involved in an accident. She died immediately, and he died a week later. Their kids were with our shared grandparents, but my grandpa has a criminal record, and the kids weren't allowed to stay with them. My aunts and uncles didn't step up. Everyone expected me and my wife to step up instead. Since we're married and both have stable jobs and we're young, it was seen as the perfect solution. They passed my name along to the caseworker and I was contacted once. I said no, which was accepted. There was backlash from relatives. I blocked many of them. It died down for a while, but last month they learned the kids were in and out of different homes and had been separated twice in the months they've been in foster care. They visit the kids, which is how they learned all this, but it made them angry with me, even though I have aunts and uncles who never even tried to take them to the best of my knowledge. So I don't feel bad. A lot of Dad's family think I should feel bad. They say I should have saved the kids from foster care. I don't believe so, and my wife agrees. But after blocking in so many different places and seeing how worked up they are, I wanted to ask online, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like you didn't have a relationship with your father and never even met these kids. You have no obligation to take them in, which is a huge life-changing event. That's right. I never met them nor had any contact with them. I have no idea the ages of these kids even, or if they're boys, girls, or what. We're literal strangers. So the people who know these kids, and who had a good enough relationship with their parents to push for you to connect, are refusing to take the kids in? That sounds sketchy to me. Their circus, they're monkeys, not yours. Not the a-hole. Why aren't their mother's family taking care of them? I don't know the answer to this one. I don't care enough to ask. You have no obligation to take this on. Having said that, the system sucks, and unless they end up in a perfect scenario, their lives could be really messed up. because none of their family members wanted the responsibility of raising them. I don't think you're an a-hole, but I do feel bad for the kids. Foster care is no joke. I agree that bad things could happen, which is why their actual family members should step up, since they're so upset by everything. I was never these kids' family. We never met or had a relationship. I know nothing about them even, but they do know our aunts and uncles. You are doing for them exactly what your dad did when he left you and your mom. Nothing. Nobody has any business volunteering you for anything you didn't sign up for. Exactly this, not his burden nor his responsibility. His deadbeat dad and side chick should have made plans for their kids in case something happened to them, like a reasonably responsible person would do. Just one final failing of this father to add to the seemingly long list of parenting fails. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take classes to help me take care of my autistic stepbrother? My mom's husband has 2 kids. My stepbrother Jake is 9 and my stepsister Ella is 7. My mom and her husband have been together for 5 years and married for 2. 3 years ago, my mom joined her husband and Ella in classes to learn how to care for people on the spectrum. It's supposed to cover a bunch of stuff and educate on having family members on the spectrum, so it wasn't just about caregiving. I, 17 male, was literally dragged along but didn't take them seriously and never passed the classes. For one, I didn't want to be set up as a babysitter for Jake and Ella. The other thing was, I resented all the changes we had to make for my mom's husband and kids to move in that accommodated Jake. My mom's husband said they wouldn't move in together if I didn't take the classes, which was also what I was hoping for. Clearly that didn't work. And now they lost their regular babysitter who could take care of Jake, so the pressure is on me to take the classes and pass this time. I'm refusing, and I offered to live with a family member if they weren't okay with my decision. Mom said no, and she's not pushing me away. I told her she needed to let this go then. Her husband said I'm being an a-hole to Jake and he deserves better. I told him I already accommodated a lot for Jake, and it should be my choice whether I step up to be a fit babysitter or not. My mom begged me to reconsider and she told me the babysitting will be off the table. But to pass them to show I want to learn how to interact with Jake better. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Not your kids, not your problem. Exactly. OP shouldn't be pressured into parenting someone else's kids, especially when they've already done more than enough. They deserve to have boundaries without being guilt-tripped for it. It's on them to find a babysitter or caretaker, not drag an OP any more than he already has, and that stepdad is an a-hole, period. Wow, your stepdad is an a-hole. Hey, I won't move in with you unless your son promises to take care of my child for free. Not the a-hole, bud. Good luck. You're right. And mom isn't a hero either. We won't move in together until you pass the classes. Proceeds to move him in, as you said. That makes this, you only have to pass the classes to prove you want to interact with Jake. Be a blatant, humongous lie. It's pretty obvious that if OP did pass the classes, the next thing out of her mouth would have been, "You're qualified. You get no choice." Poor OP, honestly. Not the a-hole. The real issue here is that even if these classes provide valuable life skills, once you take the class and pass, mom and stepdad will want you to babysit, regardless of your mom saying it's off the table. Yeah, 'cause nothing says totally optional, like emotional blackmail and an empty promise wrapped in guilt sprinkles. Take the class, but don't you dare use it, or we'll guilt trip you for life anyway. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that, since she's the favorite, she'll be the one taking care of our mom when she's old? I'm 21 female and my sister is 18. I've always felt like our mom favors her, even if she doesn't say it directly. I study out of town and only come home a few days a week. When I'm gone, my sister uses my stuff without asking. It's happened so many times that I've stopped leaving anything valuable at home. Recently, an aunt sent me a pair of sneakers I really liked. My mom said she couldn't find them, and then my sister showed up wearing them. I asked her to take them off. She refused, we argued, and my mom's only response was something like, "So what? It's not like you're gonna eat them." That same night, my sister started provoking me. She said things like, "Nobody loves you," and called me a freeloader. I was doing the dishes, and when I finished, she came and dropped off her dirty plate, just to say, "You act like it doesn't hurt, but I know it does." I snapped. I told her that if she enjoys being the favorite so much, she better enjoy everything that comes with it, because when mom gets old, she'll be the one changing her diapers and dealing with everything, and I won't help at all. She went silent and locked herself in her room crying. Later, my mom asked me to tell her I was just joking because she's stressed about her national standardized tests. I said no, I meant what I said. My mom got angry, called me ungrateful, said she raised me for nothing, and now she's telling my aunts that I came home just to ruin her peace. So, am I overreacting? Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. My mom took care of her parents forever, but once she found out they were giving all the valuables to my uncle in their wills, my mom decided to take a step back. Since the favorite was basically getting everything, mom said he could start earning it. When Grandpa's dementia got to the point of not allowing him to live alone, mom called my uncle and said come get him. That favoritism crap leaves scars. Nobody should grow up feeling less than one of their siblings. Your mom and sister are both a-holes. Not the a-hole for saying it, but stand your ground on it. Oh, and tell your aunt to mail stuff to your school address, not your parents' place. And if you're just coming home to ruin her peace, stop coming home. Go live life and enjoy it. See them when you absolutely must. I'll remember that, and when I leave and she wants to see me, that's what I'll answer. I don't want to ruin your peace. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my half-sister because she complains that my tattoo only represents my mom and not hers? I, 22 male, lost my mom when I was 5. My parents had a complicated relationship, and I believe my dad was with his present wife before my mom died. If not, he moved on very fast because my half-sister, 16 female, was born less than a year after my mom died. I was 6. My relationship with my half-sister's mom was never a close one. I resented her and my dad for making things move so fast, and I resented her attempts to parent me, mostly times when she challenged me on why I denied she was my mom too, or when she put a limit on how many photos of my mom I could have in my room at any one time. She accused me of keeping them to hurt her, which wasn't true, but she felt hurt seeing them and realizing I kept them close. Dad and I drifted apart entirely. He knew how I felt and didn't want to face it, and I was still so mad at him for turning my world upside down after mom's death had already done it. My half-sister and I had a decent relationship despite all that. We were never super close, but we were okay. When I was 16, my half-sister's mom was diagnosed with a pretty awful neurological disease, a terminal one. She's declined a lot over the years. I've tried to be supportive of my half-sister, but I know she has some resentment toward me because I have not helped care for her mom. And once I moved out, I cut ties with my dad and her mom, but kept in touch with her. Last year, I got a tattoo. I'd always wanted one that honored mom, so I got an owl bear because I remember my mom being wise and loving. Her name's also included, along with a small heart. My half-sister has seen it on social media a little, on my page and the tattoo artist's page. When she first saw the fully healed tattoo, she asked me about it and asked why I just had my mom and not both mine and hers. She told me her mom raised me longer than my mom did and that her mom was dying. I explained that my relationship with her mom wasn't a good one and she was never my mom. My half-sister didn't like my answer and pushed against it repeatedly and brought it up repeatedly. It reached the stage last month where I was tired of the fight and so close to telling her I really don't care about her mom's feelings or what's going on with her. I knew, given everything, that would be too far, so I started to ignore her. She refused to drop it and ignored my boundaries and attempts to change the subject. When she realized I was ignoring her, she started calling me names and asking how I can be such a loveless jerk. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Having said that, she's a kid and going through a difficult time. Everything you're doing is right, and while she is wrong, it's understandable. I know, and that's why I stepped back before I said something that would be more hurtful. She doesn't need to hear me say how I feel about her mom. Not the a-hole. Sorry about your loss. And sorry your dad is such an a-hole. You deserve better. Stay away from them and find your peace. Thank you. I miss her a lot still. but I know she'd want me to be happy and I am. My life is pretty good right now, despite everything. This may be harsh, but perhaps it will help her understand your point of view. Ask her, right now while her mom is actively dying, how she would feel if dad brought another woman into the home so soon after she passes and a new kid was born. Would new woman be her mother? She should get the point. I understand dumping that on a teen going through her parents' death is really cold, but that's the point. That's what they have all done to you for over a decade. And sometimes they're selfish and entitled people that cannot understand someone else unless and until it finally happens to them. Last story. Am I the a-hole for moving into a studio apartment away from my mother-in-law who moved in? Long story short, my boyfriend's mom is poor and had to move into my boyfriend's and my apartment last month because my boyfriend's brother, who lived with her, got them both evicted. He stole her car, wrecked it into their apartment, and almost killed someone. He's currently in rehab. Before she moved in, I sat down with my boyfriend and laid out the requirements for her living here. She must cut off contact with his brother for his own good and never invite him over, as I'm afraid of him retaliating at our apartment and getting us evicted too. She should also stop enabling him with a constant safety net to continue his drug use. I know that sounds harsh, but it was the only way to actually force him to get help. This has been an almost decade-long battle of her enabling him, and he's not getting any better. My boyfriend agreed to this, and she agreed. Cut to 2 weeks in, I come home from work. My boyfriend and she are laughing about how they took his brother to Golden Corral when I was gone, and he was so high he was nodding off in the food. I was so upset that not only did she break the cardinal rule I set for her, but that my boyfriend went along with it too. I told him I felt betrayed, and that he just set a precedent for her that she can do whatever she wants now, because any rule set isn't actually going to be enforced, clearly, by his example. He told me he did it because he thought it was too harsh after the fact, without telling me he had changed his mind, and thereby went against our agreement. I otherwise wouldn't have let her live here rent-free. My boyfriend said putting her on the street was too harsh of a punishment for breaking the rules. But isn't that the point? Now she's telling us we need to do her chores when we pay the rent, because she doesn't want to do them, knowing he won't enforce anything or kick her out because he ultimately can't face the guilt of doing so. He has attachment issues with her and a heavy guilt complex. Our apartment leases up in a couple of months, and now that we're moving, she asked us, so where are we moving to? Fully expecting a free ride and free rent at our next place. I was so dumbfounded because she was only supposed to be here until she got housing, but low-income housing waiting lists can be months to years long. I don't want to live with her anymore because she walks all over us and causes tension between my boyfriend and me. He will never put her on the street because he's controlled by his guilt. When I ask what he plans to do, he said he isn't taking her to our next place, but that would ultimately leave her on the street. And I know deep down, even if we initially move without her, she'll be back in a week or two because he'll feel guilty. So I want to move into a studio apartment now, knowing that I don't believe he's going to let her go, and I've voiced this as a real possibility to him, but I'm being framed as trying to dismantle our relationship. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Don't sign a lease with him again. His word about how he'll handle his mother is worth less than nothing. She'll be back. This. OP, you are dating him, half the relationship, you are on half the lease, and paying half the rent. You are not being treated like your opinions, resources, and money count. You are half the relationship, but not half the importance. He didn't ask what do you feel about the plans. He made a decision with his mom and told you what was happening. He's disregarded what you say, want, and how you feel. He's assuming that what he says goes, you will follow orders and your resources, and money are his to dispose of as he wishes. Do you want to continue like that? Not the a-hole. You're not only showing some self-respect, you're saving yourself from the mess that is coming. My question to OP is, why is he still your boyfriend? He should be your ex by now. She's upset the mother is enabling the brother, and that boyfriend is enabling the mother. Meanwhile, she's enabling the boyfriend, and by the transitive property, also enabling all of them as well.